You know him as the silver-haired heartthrob of Pretty Woman and the smooth-talking gentleman of Chicago. But Richard Gere's real life in 2025 is far more mysterious, luxurious, and, yes, shocking than you might expect. Behind the calm, spiritual image he so carefully cultivated lies a world filled with unexpected twists. Lavish homes you've never seen, a car collection with one very dark backstory, and a romantic history that took a scandalous turn just a few years ago. Why did Gere suddenly vanish from the public eye for months? What's the unsettling truth behind one of his most private family decisions? And what eerie feature was found on the grounds of his estate that left fans and media stunned? Stick around, because by the end of this video, we're revealing the one secret about Richard Gere's lifestyle that even his biggest fans never saw coming. Richard Gere, born Richard Tiffany Gere on August 31, 1949, in the bustling heart of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, entered the world with a name that would one day become synonymous with charm and quiet intensity on screen. His upbringing was rooted in the modest and grounded values of a middle-class American family. His mother, Doris Ann, held the fort at home, a dedicated homemaker with a steady presence, while his father, Homer George Gere, brought home the bacon as an insurance agent with Nationwide Mutual Insurance Company. The household was a place of steady rhythms and quiet ambition. Growing up in North Syracuse, young Richard showed early signs of being more than just another small-town boy. At North Syracuse Central High School, he stood out, not just for his sharp looks or his cool composure, but for his striking versatility. He wasn't just the kid with a trumpet slung under his arm, practicing scales and jazz runs. He was also the gymnast who could flip, twist, and vault with the grace of a dancer. Music and movement, two forces that would later define his artistic career, were already deeply embedded in his early life. By the time he graduated high school in 1967, Gere had caught the eye of the University of Massachusetts Amherst, which offered him a gymnastics scholarship. He accepted and began studying philosophy, probing life's big questions while still nailing landings on the mat. But 2 years in, something shifted. The lecture halls and theoretical debates, while intellectually stimulating, couldn't hold. His restless energy, the call of the stage, and later the camera, proved louder than the chalkboards of academia. Gere left the university before graduating, choosing instead to follow a path less defined and far more daring. Before Richard, Gere was a fixture of Hollywood red carpets and romantic blockbusters. He was cutting his teeth under the dim lights of the theater. He began professionally in 1969, not in front of a camera, but on stage, earning his stripes at the Seattle Repertory Theater and Cape Cod's Provincetown Playhouse. The early years were full of character work and experimentation, none more iconic than his turn in the original 1973 West End production of Grease, where he landed his first major stage role. Long before Travolta's slick Danny Zuko hit movie screens, Gere had already helped shape that rebel with a comb archetype for a live audience. Then came Bent, the bold Broadway play that would set him apart. In 1979, Gere portrayed a gay Holocaust victim, a courageous role at a time when few Hollywood actors would dare challenge conventions so directly. That performance didn't just earn him critical acclaim and a Theatre World Award. It signaled that Gere was more than a pretty face. He was an artist unafraid of risk. By the mid-70s, film began calling. Though cast in 1974's The Lords of Flatbush, a feud with co-star Sylvester Stallone led to Gere being replaced. A bumpy start, but one that didn't stall his momentum. Soon he was turning heads with roles in Looking for Mr. Goodbar, 1977, and Terrence Malick's lyrical days of Heaven, 1978. But it was 1980's American Gigolo that transformed him. As Julian Kay, the cool, stylish escort in Paul Schrader's neon-drenched vision of L.A., Gere didn't just act, he defined a cinematic era. That role made him a leading man, a sex, symbol, and the owner of every screen that dared hold his gaze. 2 years later, he sealed his superstar status with An Officer and a Gentleman alongside Deborah Winger. The film tugged at hearts and wallets, pulling in over $130 million and earning Gere a Golden Globe nomination. He had arrived, and audiences didn't want him to leave. The 1980s brought a more subdued period, but Gere returned in a big way at the dawn of the 90s. First, with the gritty internal affairs, and then with Pretty Woman, a film that became a cultural event. Paired with Julia Roberts, Gere played Edward Lewis, the suave but lonely businessman who learns to love. It wasn't just a romantic comedy, it was lightning in a bottle. The role earned him another Golden Globe nomination and permanently etched his name into the rom-com Hall of Fame. From there, he kept the momentum going. Summersby, Primal Fear, Runaway Bride, each added another layer to the Richard Gere mythos. Intelligent, charismatic, always just slightly unknowable. In 1999, People magazine made it official, crowning him sexiest man alive. But Gere wasn't content to coast on charm. In the 2000s, he continued evolving. The Mothman prophecies tapped into the eerie and philosophical. Unfaithful, with Diane Lane, brought emotional complexity and brooding tension. Then came Chicago in 2002, where Gere surprised everyone. Singing, dancing, razzle-dazzling his way through the musical as slick lawyer Billy Flynn, he won his first Golden Globe. It was showmanship and substance all in one glittering package. 2004's Shall We Dance let him stretch his ballroom legs, and audiences loved it. The film waltzed its way to $170 million globally. In 2007, he took part in the fragmented, poetic I'm Not There, one of 6 actors playing different versions of Bob Dylan, lending his mystique to the legend's complex legacy. And though Nights in Rodanthe in 2008 reunited him with Diane Lane for one last windswept romance, the critics were less enchanted. But ticket sales told a different story, with $84 million in box office returns. After Nights in Rodanthe, his last film fully backed by a major Hollywood studio, Richard Gere's career took a quieter but no less compelling turn. Rumors swirled that his candid political stance on China, particularly his outspoken support for Tibet and the Dalai Lama, had nudged him to the fringes of big-budget filmmaking. As Hollywood leaned into the lucrative Chinese box office, Gere found himself increasingly drawn to the world of independent cinema, a shift that might have sidelined some actors, but, for Gere, became a canvas for even deeper, more daring work. In 2012, he delivered a powerhouse performance in Artistry, playing a morally ambiguous hedge fund magnate whose crumbling empire mirrors his personal unraveling. The role earned him his 4th Golden Globe nomination and reminded audiences that Gere was still very much a force in front of the camera, just operating outside the system that once crowned him king. Then came Norman, the moderate rise and tragic fall of a New York fixer in 2016. Here, Gere ventured into territory few would have expected. As Norman Oppenheimer, a lonely, oddly endearing man weaving himself into political and social circles with more hope than power, he shed every trace of his usual polish. Critics praised him for the transformation. RogerEbert.com called his performance consistently, completely fascinating. It was a stunning reminder that Gere had never been just a matinee idol. He was a shapeshifter, quietly perfecting his craft. Across a career spanning more than 40 years, Gere has remained relevant, not by chasing trends, but by trusting his instincts. Whether as a slick lawyer in Chicago, a haunted businessman in Artistry, or a tragic fixer in Norman, he consistently reveals new dimensions of his talent. He's not just an actor, he's a true performer, one who can seduce an audience with a glance or devastate it with silence. And if you thought Gere's artistry ended when the camera stopped rolling, think again. He's a trained tap dancer, mastering the rhythms for his dazzling scenes in Chicago. He studied karate with discipline for an officer and a gentleman, bringing physical authenticity to his role. And his musical abilities aren't just for show. He composed and played the iconic piano theme in Pretty Woman and delivered a heartfelt guitar solo in Runaway Bride. Each skill wasn't just learned, it was inhabited. Another layer of storytelling from an actor who refuses to be one-dimensional. Mansion in Sag Harbor, New York. In the serene seaside enclave of Sag Harbor, a hamlet rich with old-world charm and modern prestige, Richard Gere once owned one of the most breathtaking estates in the Hamptons. Known as Strongheart Manor, the property isn't just another luxurious waterfront home. It's a retreat shaped by history, personal care, and a deep appreciation for peace, nature, and understated elegance. In 2005, Gere purchased the estate for $6.9 million, a relatively modest sum by Hampton's standards, especially considering what he would turn it into. Set on 6 glorious acres along Peconic Bay in Southampton, Strongheart Manor offers 300 feet of private bay frontage, expansive rolling lawns, and a tranquility that few homes in the area can match. But what made this estate truly unique was what Gere did with it over the years that followed. The centerpiece of the estate is the 14,000-square-foot main house, a historic structure that dates back to 1902. Rather than raze and rebuild as many do in the Hamptons, Gere chose the path of reverent restoration. Every inch of Strongheart Manor was thoughtfully modernized while maintaining its soul. Original woodwork was preserved, antique architectural details were restored, and the entire home was brought into the 21st century with updated infrastructure, eco-conscious enhancements, and quiet luxury. A tour of the house begins with an elegant yet welcoming foyer, where the home's heritage announces itself with weathered beams, wide plank hardwood floors, and soft natural light. The main living spaces are gracious and warm, never gaudy. The great room boasts an oversized fireplace, walls of French doors that open onto sprawling porches, and views that stretch endlessly over the bay. The dining room, intimate yet expansive, is perfect for hosting both formal dinners and casual family gatherings. The kitchen is designed with the serious chef in mind. Think custom cabinetry, professional-grade appliances, and a layout that effortlessly balances function and aesthetics. There are several cozy nooks throughout the house for reading, writing, or enjoying a morning coffee while the breeze from the bay filters through the windows. Upstairs, the bedrooms are sanctuaries of calm, with many offering direct water views and private terraces. The master suite is a particularly tranquil escape, with its own fireplace, sitting area, spa-like bathroom, and a panoramic perspective of the water that shifts with the light of day. Beyond the main house, the estate includes 2 guest homes, each restored to mirror the tone of the main residence, along with a tea house and several outdoor pavilions. Walking the grounds, one moves between manicured lawns, native plantings, stone pathways, and shaded porches that make even the hottest summer days feel cool. The outdoor areas are built for both solitude and celebration. A bayfront dock, a stunning pool area with stone terraces, and numerous quiet corners ideal for meditation or morning yoga. But even in the high-stakes world of celebrity real estate, the market can be humbling. In 2013, Gere listed Strongheart Manor for an ambitious $70 million. Over the next few years, the price was adjusted, eventually landing at $47.5 million. In 2016, the estate finally sold for $36.5 million, still an extraordinary return on investment, though not quite the splashy number first sought. The buyer? None other than former Today Show host Matt Lauer. Tucked away in the quiet, woodsy charm of Pound Ridge, Richard Gere's former primary residence was more than just a country home. It was a private haven. A sprawling 50-plus acre estate designed for reflection, privacy, and connection with nature. Gere originally purchased the property back in 1987 for $1.5 million, a time when his career was soaring and his affinity for solitude and spiritual grounding was already well known. Over the next 3 decades, Gere poured not just money but personality and intention into the land. The result was an exquisite compound unlike any other in the region, a place where luxury and serenity coexist with a kind of humble grandeur. In January 2022, after decades of calling it home, Gere put the estate on the market for $28 million. By June, he had accepted an offer of $24.15 million, a significant appreciation from the original price, but one that reflected the uniqueness of the estate as much as its scale. The main residence is nestled among rolling hills, dense woods, and open meadows. Every approach to the house is scenic. Winding driveways curve through a landscape that looks more like a private nature reserve than a piece of suburban real estate. At over 11,000 square feet, the house itself is stately but never ostentatious. It blends harmoniously with its surroundings through thoughtful architecture, natural materials, and a palette that echoes the nearby forest. Inside, the home is warm and expansive. Floor-to-ceiling windows allow natural light to flood nearly every room, and they offer continuous, sweeping views of the landscape. The living spaces are generous yet intimate, ideal for both large-scale entertaining and quiet evenings. Exposed beams, wood-paneled walls, and stone fireplaces give the home a grounded, earthy elegance, while the fine detailing throughout, custom. Cabinetry, hand-forged iron fixtures, rich hardwood floors, reflects a love for craftsmanship. The kitchen is a chef's dream. Large, functional, and built for gathering. Multiple dining areas, both formal and informal, overlook patios, gardens, and wooded areas. The bedrooms are quiet sanctuaries, each with views of trees, fields, or the private lake, and the primary suite is its own secluded retreat, complete with a luxurious spa-style bathroom, fireplace, and a private terrace. But this estate is more than just a house. The compound includes multiple structures, a guest house, separate staff quarters, a barn converted into a studio or entertainment space, and several outbuildings that offer room for hobbies, work, or art. Walking trails wind through the property, and there's a private lake where one can paddle, swim, or simply sit and watch the seasons change. Fields, orchards, and gardens add to the sense that the estate is both curated and wild, cultivated yet organic. Just a short drive from this estate is the Bedford Post Inn, a charming and refined retreat that Gere co-owns. Known for its yoga loft, gourmet restaurant, and serene guest rooms, the inn reflects many of the same values Gere imbued into his home: peace, comfort, and understated luxury. It's not hard to imagine the actor strolling through the inn's gardens or greeting guests before retreating to the tranquility of his compound nearby. His current net worth is estimated at $120 million. Over the years, Richard Gere has proven that his taste for elegance and distinction doesn't end at the red carpet. Just as his film roles often reveal depth, nuance, and charisma, so too does his collection of automobiles. Each car, a character, in its own right, telling a story of style, sophistication, and occasional flashes of speed. One of the crown jewels of Gere's garage is the timeless Mercedes-Benz R107 C107 series, a line of refined luxury coupes and convertibles that quietly defined an era. These classic models, produced from the early 70s through the late 80s, were once the ride of choice for moguls and movie stars alike. Gere's version, lovingly preserved, speaks volumes about his appreciation for old-world European craftsmanship and smooth, understated glamour. There's no need for loud colors or gimmicks here, just a long body, polished chrome, and a confident hum of German engineering that glides down the road with composure. It's the kind of car that doesn't beg for attention, yet never fails to command it. Then there's the Jaguar E-Type, a machine so achingly beautiful that even Enzo Ferrari himself declared it the most beautiful car ever made. And when someone like Richard Gere, known for roles that balance charm with quiet intensity, chooses a vehicle like this, it feels like a perfect match. With its sinuous curves, elongated hood, and snarling engine, the E-Type captures everything. thrilling about driving, and looking good while doing it. It's a car built for the open road, for long glances at red lights, for the kind of man who understands that true style doesn't age, it evolves. Moving into the modern era, Gere's 2015 Jaguar XK proves he's not just stuck in the past. Sleek and modern, the XK blends advanced technology with the classic DNA of Jaguar's storied past. Its muscular V8 delivers power on demand, while the interior cocoons its driver in plush leather and refined wood trim. This car is comfort and performance in equal measure, perfectly suited for someone who balances Hollywood life with a quieter, more introspective pace. It's a car for winding drives along the California coast or slipping into a late-night premiere without making a scene. But perhaps the most daring vehicle in Gere's collection is the 2004 Lotus Esprit, a rare and head-turning British sports car that adds an unexpected splash of adrenaline to the mix. With its sharply angular design, low-slung profile, and race-ready agility, the Esprit is less about luxury and more about thrill. It's a vehicle that hugs the road with laser precision, inviting its driver to live a little faster, a little louder. The Esprit's inclusion in Gere's garage shows a different side of him, a reminder that behind the meditative calm is a man who still appreciates the rush of a high-performance ride. In the end, Richard Gere's car collection is more than a set of expensive machines. It's a curated journey through decades of automotive artistry, from vintage elegance to modern sophistication, with a few wild cards thrown in for good measure. While many celebrities dabble in causes, Gere has built a second life entirely separate from the Hollywood spotlight, one marked by courage, controversy, and a fearless pursuit of justice. A frequent visitor to Dharamshala, India, the seat of the Tibetan government in exile, Gere is more than just a vocal ally of Tibet. He is a relentless advocate. His commitment is deeply personal and profoundly political. As co-founder of Tibet House US, founder of the Gere Foundation, and chairman of the board for the International Campaign for Tibet, he's embedded himself in the fight for Tibetan independence. That stance has cost him. Gere is permanently banned from entering China, a consequence of standing firmly on moral ground in a world increasingly dictated by box office returns and geopolitics. In 2017, Gere openly acknowledged that his activism had essentially blacklisted him from big studio films, as Hollywood hesitated to upset the Chinese market, now the second largest in the world. His outspokenness isn't new. Back in 1993, Gere was banned from presenting at the Oscars after denouncing the Chinese government live on air. 14 years later, he called for a boycott of the 2008 Beijing Olympics, urging the world to use the global stage to pressure China on its Tibet policy. He even starred in a free Tibet-themed commercial for Lancia, an automotive ad that was more rallying cry than product pitch. But his activism extends far beyond Tibet. In Indonesia, he meditated at the ancient Borobudur temple. In India, he helped establish the AIDS Care Home, a safe haven for women and children living with HIV, and founded the Gere Foundation India Trust to support health and humanitarian efforts across the country. He has campaigned for AIDS education, ecological preservation, and tribal rights worldwide, including his work with Survival International, where he lent his voice and writing to the 2009 book We Are One, a celebration of tribal peoples, focusing on the plight of the Juma people as a global symbol of cultural loss and environmental degradation. One incident in 2007 pulled Gere into the center of a media firestorm when, during an AIDS awareness rally in Jaipur, India, he spontaneously dipped and kissed Bollywood star Shilpa Shetty on stage to highlight the importance of safe sex. The moment, though playful and well-meaning, provoked outrage from conservative groups. An arrest warrant was issued. But the case was quickly thrown out by India's Chief Justice, who deemed it frivolous, noting it was more about political point-scoring than genuine offense. Gere, unfazed, continued his advocacy. Politically, he's never shied from speaking. Truth to power. He was openly critical of the Iraq War, calling it a tragedy and condemning the Bush administration for pushing Americans into conflict under false pretenses. At the Cairo International Film Festival, he went so far as to say, "I'm very sorry about what the U.S. has done in Iraq." He later endorsed Hillary Clinton in the 2016 U.S. presidential race and has spoken out on Israeli policy in the occupied West Bank, describing the expansion of settlements as an absurd provocation and completely illegal. And Gere's activism is still evolving. In 2023, he was one of 480 global figures who signed a statement in support of the Mahsa Amini protesters in Iran, demanding sanctions against Iranian officials and calling for the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps to be labeled a terrorist organization, where many stars carefully curate their public images to avoid rocking the boat. Richard Gere dives headfirst into turbulent waters. Richard Gere's life off-screen has often captured as much attention as his on-screen charisma. His whirlwind romance and high-profile marriage to supermodel Cindy Crawford from 1991 to 1995 was a headline-grabbing chapter, captivating fans and tabloids alike. But long before Cindy, Gere shared a deep connection with actress Penelope Milford throughout the 1970s, a relationship that spanned nearly 7 years. The 1980s saw Gere briefly linked to iconic figures like Priscilla Presley and Kim Basinger, adding to his reputation as Hollywood's charming heartthrob. In November 2002, Gere entered into marriage once again, this time with model and actress Carrie Lowell. Their son, Homer James Jigme Gere, arrived in February 2000, before they officially tied the knot. However, their relationship faced a turbulent end, culminating in a highly publicized and contentious divorce battle in New York County Supreme Court. After years of legal wrangling, the case was finally settled in 2016, closing a difficult chapter in Gere's personal life. In a surprising and heartwarming turn, Gere found love again with Spanish activist Alejandra Silva. The couple married in early April 2018, despite a striking 33-year age difference. Gere was 68, Silva just 35. Their bond quickly grew, and in February 2019, they welcomed a baby boy, adding a new generation to Gere's family. Beyond the tabloids, Gere's life reflects a profound spiritual journey, marked by his dedication to Buddhism and his passionate advocacy for Tibet. These convictions shape not just his personal worldview, but also his public persona, merging the roles of actor, activist, and devoted family man into one compelling story. Richard Gere is an American actor who has a net worth of $120 million,